Shout out to my guy Rocked On Podcast Network and Motor City Mania. I know they talked about this. I haven't seen either one of their videos, but I wanted to kind of dabble in this myself. The beauty about YouTube is we all wind up talking about the same thing, and you guys watch all of it because you can't get enough of your Detroit Lions content because nobody gives it to you like we do, right? So with that being said, I found out that we have a referee that is going to be refereeing the game on Sunday that we don't have the best history with. Now, this guy's name is Clete Blakeman, and you will remember him from the game in which I realized that the NFL was narrative driven. And this is how I know that they probably didn't go down the well that I'm going down. This is one of the reasons. This is when it became very clear to me that the NFL was narrative driven. Here's what I mean by that. Is the NFL has stories to tell. And if you've missed my prior videos, they have stories to tell. And in order to tell those particular stories, they have things in place that will sway games, right? We've seen it this year with the Detroit Lions, or should I say last year, this season, with the Dallas Cowboy ineligible man downfield, where number 68 didn't report as eligible, right? And that, I've told y'all that was to make sure Dallas got the number 2 seed. But what happens is they being the NFL, and they cannot account for blowouts when a team is getting the absolute brakes beat off of them. In cases like that, they can account for that, right? So it was this game. This guy, we have quite the history with him. All right, let me show you. This is coming from the Detroit Free Press. Says Clete Blakeman right here is officiating, and his officiating crew will be working the Lions 49ers game Sunday evening, according to Football Zebras. Blakeman was the crew chief for the Lions' 23-22 loss to the Green Bay Packers in 2019, which the players and fans alike bashed the officiating for late illegal hands to the face penalties on Trey Flowers. That was the game that I knew that something was afoot in the NFL. It was that game in which I knew. And there's a guy on Monday Night Football, where he used to be back in 2019, when they were kind of trying to figure out what to do after John Gruden left. Okay. His name was Booger McFarland, or is Booger McFarland. And I remember him specifically just destroying the NFL, the referees, and everything involved in that play. The next year, he was gone. That entire crew was gone, right? So I have my theories about what happened there. But let's continue. It says the Lions blue, for those who don't remember, I'm sure we all do. It's very reminiscent to that Dallas Cowboy game in 2014 or 2015. The Lions blew a 22-13 lead in the fourth quarter, and the illegal hands to the face penalties extended 2 Packers drives, which resulted in 10 points and a comeback victory at Lambeau Field on a field goal as time expired. Blakeman said in the pool report after the game, both penalty flags in that game were thrown by umpire Jeff Rice, who is no longer on Blakeman's crew, according to Football Zebras. Well. Isn't that very convenient? Very convenient of Clete Blakeman. His name is kind of tough to say. Now, just for those of you who don't remember, this is what he looks like. A lot of these refs, they look very similar, but this is Clete. This is what he looks like. So we all remember that face. Now, that was the game that I realized that the NFL wanted the Packers to win. As you're looking at the replay, it is very clear that Trey Flowers has the jersey right here. His hand is fully extended, or her arm is fully extended. In no way is that a hands to the face. That's a 5-yard penalty, usually automatic first down. They replayed it. I can still remember Trey Flowers' face. Like, I didn't do it. And I remember after that game, Trey Flowers was so mad, like he could barely talk to the media. He didn't do much for us as a Detroit Lion, one of those overpriced free agents that the man that shall not be named brought in. But I remember that game. He tried his very best that game. That game was set up for the Packers to win. They came back, they kicked the field goal as time expired. Then if we skip to 2021, we all know what happened there. And I've been telling you that the NFL was preparing us for what is about to happen now. Now, we've seen some calls go the Detroit Lions way that maybe other years might not have gone. Now, I'm not complaining. We just were waiting on the moment that it happens to us. The tripping, Aiden Hutchinson, the phantom tripping, right? He didn't make contact, but you got that. I saw some plays too, little hands to the face by a couple guys last game. But not being called in certain instances is way different from it being called, but it never happened, right? You got the pass interference from the Saints to the Rams that sent the Rams to the Super Bowl. That was a no call that was blatantly obvious. Then you have a call that is not correct, but it's called anyway, right? So you have those situations. Now, this is probably going to be a flag. I think it's going to go two ways. It's going to be a flag-heavy game, or we're going to see a lot of flags favor the Detroit Lions. Here is what Blakeman's crew ranks. They rank 12th out of 17 officiating crews because you have to have one per game. There are 17 games. I want to say 17 games every weekend, if I'm not mistaken. It might only be 16. Maybe there are 16 and then one like bonus crew. Crews and flags thrown, according to NFLpenalties.com, which is a pretty cool website. The refereeing crew has thrown 175 total flags in 16 games this season. So, right, for an average of 10.9, we're going to round that up to 11 total flags per game. The distribution is relatively split between flags against home and road teams, with 5.25 penalties per game against the home team and 5.69 penalties per game against the road teams. So they favor the home teams just slightly. Just slightly. If we round that up to 11, you might as well say that 5.69 is 5.70. So that could be 6 penalties on the Niners. 6 on the Lions and 5 on the Niners. However, what you have to remember is the NFL was prepping us for this. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I think he might follow that, what is it? 11 flags per game. But I think we're going to see some calls favor the Detroit Lions. I truly believe that, because if you go back and look at the archive of this channel, you will see that I have been predicting this stuff, because that was the moment, that game in 2019 was when I realized what I realized. What I knew all along, but I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to accept it. And then that was the time, because they wanted the Packers to win that game. But we've seen it with Dallas. What a way to end 2023, right? It was the controversy of all controversies. It was, in my opinion, that reported as eligible was just as big as the Brandon Pettigrew pass interference no call, right? So even though we have Clete Blakeman, I want to call him Blakeman for some reason. Even though we have Blakeman, I think that these calls are going to favor the Detroit Lions, whether they're called in our favor or not called in our favor. I think we're going to get calls to go our way. I've already seen it. So let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about the hands to the face ref who's officiated our games since then, right? But before this one, how do you feel? Are you nervous? Do you think it's going to, I don't want to see Brad Allen ever. He need to be banned. He don't need to do one of our games for at least a solid year. I don't want to see him at all. And I don't know if you know this, but he's been on the sidelines in these games. He's been the backup head officiating ref. So he was not completely demoted to out the playoffs. As a matter of fact, he might be the only person on his team that is in the playoffs. But he was in a couple games. They sent him to the cold weather as a punishment. He was in the cold areas. He was with the Chiefs. He was in that game. No, Steelers and Bills. And then he was in the Ravens game where it was cold as well. So I'm not nervous. At least about the officiating. I'm anxious. I'm not nervous. I think the Detroit Lions are a confident bunch. They can handle this team. Whether Debo is playing or not, I think they can handle this team. Does it matter if he plays? Of course it does. They're like 3 yards less. They average 3 points less or something like that when he doesn't play. So he is a big deal. That would be like Kittle or Bosa or one of those guys McCaffrey not playing, right? He's a big deal. So if he's not going to be in, it's going to work in our favor. But I'm not worried about the refs as some may be. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You guys are awesome. And thank you for everybody that's cashed at me since my first video, man. I've seen it. You know, I'm not going to promote it. It'll be in the description of every video from now on. I don't want to put a little thing on the screen and all that other stuff. If you look at my description, you'll see it. But thank you to the people that have done it since, and I appreciate you tremendously. So with that being said, you guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And Sunday cannot get here fast enough. But the good news is I'll be traveling for the 2 days, like most of the time leading up to that. So it should go fast. And as always, go Lions.